Hi, I'm Dr. Gemma, and welcome back to Cognitive, the Knitting Psychology podcast. Cheerfully and somewhat irregularly in business since 2008. Segments today may include what's on my hooks, needles, and spindles, a strategy, something I really like, put a lid on it, oh shoot, and blather. So sit back, put your feet up, pick up your knitting, crocheting, spinning, weaving, or dyeing, or any other yarny thing you're doing, and get ready to enjoy. Well, hello, it's Gemma, and this is episode number 283 of the new series of the Cognitive Podcast. This one is called We All Gave Blood, because I was trying to think of a good way to tie everything going on in this week together. And unless I was going to call it, boy, that was an emotional roller coaster, which I guess I could have, I thought it was more witty to call it this. So you can see in the show notes, the top picture there in the show notes is me doing my selfie for donating blood. I gave just whole blood because that's all I'm allowed to give. And when the volunteer who was helping me, when he realized what I was doing, he said, let me get all the props. And it's very funny. He got all these banners and little flags and everything about giving blood. So there I am from the nose up, celebrating my donating yet another pint. And so that's the beginning of a really wild story and kind of an emotional one. So since I'm feeling fuzzy and emotional, I'm going to go into the warm thanks. And I'm going to start with Chris. I know you're still there, and I still love you and your beautiful family. Just wanted to say that, but thank you for checking in. Turbo Gal, let me come back to you because you had a lot to say and it was good stuff. Deviant Stitch, what about that knit along? What if we start a knit along on the Bloodroot tee, which isn't sock yarn, although I'm pretty sure you could get away with sport weight. Let's start that on May 1st. Okay, so I'm saying it right here, right now. Officially, we have a knit along on May 1st. And you can post pictures in the show notes. I would love that if you would keep us posted on your progress. And I'm looking at a pack of Doodle Knits cards that are just wonderful. I accidentally got a duplicate set of the monthly cards back in February. And they're really cute, and they're very funny. They're emojis. If you have ever wanted to make any kind of Fair Isle with emojis, this is your moment. So I'm going to give away the emoji cards. And let's see if I can find some other goodies to donate as well. So the knit along begins on May 1st, and this is for the Bloodroot sweater. Now, some of you, the Bloodroot tee, I think it's actually called, some of you, Loretta, are probably going to say, what about a crochet along? Well, that's cheating. You know perfectly well that you could crochet one of these babies in about, well, Loretta could do it in half an hour. The rest of us would probably take, a few days, whereas knitting it is going to take a month. So, no, I'm going to keep this as a knit along, and I will certainly try. Let me see if I can give you a link to that in the show notes. And no, I don't think I've even put it in my... No, there it is. There it is. Okay, so let's see if I can get a link into the show notes for that. Okay, having said that, we are now having a knit along. Thank you, Deviant Stitch. I blame it all on you. Turbo Gal, first. I'm going to quote her. I love your strategy on staying away from negativity. I just this week heard a speaker on climate change saying that we can talk about all the negative effects, but we need to make sure we really talk about the positive future that is possible when we make changes today and what that positive future would look like. Another speaker spoke about how easy it is to focus on the negative things going on in the world. But this speaker makes a practice of intentionally turning her attention to the positive. as a way to support and build more of that action, rather than spending her limited attention only on the very real and concerning negative. I also want to thank Turbo Gal. I did get the book on gardening you recommended, and I want to thank you for recommending the show Gardener's World on BritBox. No, I'm not watching TV right now. It's a long story. And so I don't watch a lot of videos at night. So this is one I'm going to have to save for myself to catch up on. I haven't even watched Bridgerton. I am living for the other Bennett sister to come on to BritBox in May. And I'm going to watch that till my nose bleeds or something. Meanwhile, Turbo Gal posted a link to this group making quilts. And I'm going to actually read her transcription of this. So if you want to see this, this is actually posted in the show notes attached to episode 282 BLEP. If you want to read this text, and I've put the illustrations from their Instagram, but here is the actual text. Thank you, Turbo Gal. Here's the text. Since January 2025, ICE has reportedly kidnapped 11,000 Minnesotans. The Minnesota Stolen Neighbors Quilt Project is working to honor and demand justice for these neighbors with a quilt of 11,000 squares. The finished quilt will be displayed at the Minnesota State Capitol as we pressure state leaders to protect all of us by making Minnesota a sanctuary state. The organizers are asking the community here in Minnesota and friends around the country to contribute squares. I have heard that they have about 800 squares so far. So plenty of time and room for this, kids. Contributing squares. Cut a 3-inch by 3-inch square or squares out of any fabric, sewing scraps, old clothes, etc. Feel free to embellish your squares, but keep in mind they need to be able to go through a standard sewing machine. Seams will land 1/2 inch from the edges and will eventually be displayed outside in the elements for multiple hours. Do you have multiple squares? Are you able to sew? We would love the help. Sew squares together into blocks using 1/2 inch of seam allowance. So individual squares will be 2 inches by 2 inches once you've sewn them together. Everybody getting that? So in other words, in a square, if you do a 3-inch square, you got to be aware that you're going to get that square reduced to 2 inches by 2 inches when they put in the seam allowance. Okay, and if you're going to do the bigger squares, keep that in mind. You're going for 2 by 2 inch squares when the seams are in and you've sewn them together. Most helpful would be blocks of 5 squares by 5 squares or 10 squares by 10 squares. I really want to tell you, 10 squares by 10 squares, that's 100 squares out of 11,000. What does that mean? That's slightly under 1% of what they need. What does that mean? It means that if about 110 or 120 of us did 10 by 10 squares, they would have this masterpiece. I want you to hear that this is simply not performance. If you have never seen a display like this, it's extremely powerful. The size, the sheer number representing all these people is what impresses. I would like you to refer you back, the older among us, to the AIDS quilt that traveled the country that was astonishing. This quilt is clearly in that tradition. They are using it to pressure the legislature. This is an act of advocacy and resistance. This isn't just performance. Before anybody says that, if anybody does say it, let's be honest, you're likely to get edited because you're wrong. At any rate, mail your squares to P.O. Box 19068, Minneapolis, Minnesota 55419. If you are part of an impacted community and are not able to contribute a square, we invite you to send a word, phrase, name, or symbol to, and the email's right there in the show notes. It's MN, as in the abbreviation for Minnesota, MN Quilt Project, all one word, at gmail.com. And a member of the project will add it to a square for you. If you have questions, again, you question at the email address mnquiltproject@gmail.com. I want to thank you for this, Turbo Gal. These are our people who are missing. These are our friends and our neighbors. Thank you, Turbo Gal. We haven't forgotten Minnesota, particularly here in California, where similar things are going down. I'm going to take a big deep breath here. Thank you to my listeners, as always. Thank you to my communities on Finch, on Reddit, on the ground in both the Santa Clarita and Antelope Valleys, and in this group. The Cognitive Fiber Retreat 12, all the information is right there. The link is in the show notes. Please remember CFR 12 is scheduled for November 7th, 2026. Please keep checking back. Please remember we will have a Bloodroot Tea fashion show. Bonus points if you show up with a Tolsta as well, because those are my summer projects, and I am uninhibitedly biased in my own favor if I'm running this thing. And this is the part, sooner or later, if I don't hear from Loretta saying, "What about me? I'm running this thing with you. Where's all the crocheted stuff?" Loretta, I love you. I'll be waiting for your message. I have to think about it because I really do want to give crochet equal time. But so far, I'm not there yet. I'm working my way towards it, kids. So we will have the Me-Made Tea fashion show at CFR 12. Any Me-Made Tea you make, a t-shirt, a short sleeve sweater, I'll take it. Crocheted or knitted. The actual cowl here that I'm doing and sending that prize out for and looking for other prizes, that is going to be a knit along. Hey, it's my podcast. It's not necessarily my fiber retreat, but hey, it's my podcast. So the cowl is a knit along. But at CFR 12, you want to bring any kind of tea to show off and bring as many as you like. And we'll see if we can come up with some interesting prizes for that. You just never know what could happen, do you? I mean, you're paying $10 for this thing. Surely there should be something. Okay, the registration information is there. What's on my hooks and needles? Haven't finished a darn thing, which is pretty surprising when you hear what went on this weekend. There was some significant work done. I've paused most of my major projects, and I've been working on my second Tolsta tee. I'm really now just working my way through the body. It's so easy. It's all stockinette, and it's in, a size 4 yarn, a worsted weight. So this could not be more pleasant or easy. One of the things that happened, though, this week was I found myself thinking about the Tolsta in sock yarn. And I looked through, when I bought the pattern on Ravelry, they gave me 11 files. Well, file number 2 is variations. And they have a sock yarn variation where they suggest you do the collar in a single strand of sock yarn. And you do a folding collar, and then you put a picot stitch at the place where it folds. So when you fold it, you're going to have this lovely little picot stitch ridge. Very cute. And the rest of the sweater is holding 2 strands together. You bet I'm looking at that one seriously if I ever survive making the Bloodroot tee. So I was working on that. I managed a few rows on my second Melt the Ice hat, which is coming out beautifully in the Sagittarius colorway of Malabrigo Rios, which is so lovely that I'm looking at it and thinking that might need to be a pullover sweater, because it doesn't need anything. It's a phenomenal colorway with very short repeats. It just looks truly random. What I don't know is that may be because I'm knitting the Melt the Ice hat in a 1x1 rib. And the ribbing may be giving that wonderful variegated effect. Whereas if I knitted out a flat swatch in stockinette, it might not look so good. So there's an experiment for the future. Meanwhile, on the Dizzy Laser Socks number 3. Okay, I did sock number 1 down to the heel. And then I stopped and said, I will use the remainder of the yellow yarn, the laser sheet, to do as much of the foot as I can. And so I went and did the stripes on sock number 2. I reversed the stripe. Now the first stripe is brown. Sock number 1, it's gold. So I reversed the stripe. And you can see in the show notes in the picture what happened. I went down to the waist yarn, which is yellow in that picture. And I did the stripes. Then I put in the waist yarn for the heel. And then I used up all the remainder of the brown. Originally, I was going to use that for the heel on one, if not both, of the socks. And I decided that wasn't what I wanted. Because I may have told you, I got 2 of the mini skeins from Oink Pigments. They're Pigtail Sock Targy, and it's the colorway Basic Witch. And it goes so well with this, I decided that that will be the heels. So, what you can see is my experiment was how many pairs of socks can I get with my typical sock pattern with a 7-inch leg and a 5 3/4-inch foot plus afterthought heel and toe. I want to see how many full pairs I could get. And so I got pretty much what I expected. I got 2 full pairs. The third pair, I got enough to do the legs as long as I striped. Or, I was going to do some color mix, whether it's striping or any other game you play. But striping seemed like a good one. And then I got about 3 inches, I believe, down my foot. My foot is typically 5 3/4 inches before I start the toe. So that's how far I got. And then I just took with me one of the mini skeins of the pigtails from Oink Pigments. And I wound it into a ball while my beloved son and I were at dinner one night, Friday night actually. And then I just used that, and I'm using that to finish the toe. I'm currently on the toe, although you can't see it in that picture. I'm doing the toe decreases. When I've finished that, I will go back, pull the waist yarn, and do my afterthought heel again in the Oink Pigments Pigtails, Targy Pigtail, I think it's called. And it's a sock yarn, and it's a mini. And the colorway is Basic Witch. I love the way these guys are turning out. This has been an interesting and fun project. And it really gives me a kind of blueprint to go forward, mixing and matching other colorways in my stash when I don't feel like doing just a straight up pair from one skein. Okay, meanwhile, the Bloodroot tee. I've just been adding rows to the next section. I'm on the first next section. It's 30 rows long, plus the cast on row and the setup row. And I'm just working on that. It was a pain in the neck. And I began to realize as I knitted the sock, they're on the same size needles, same size yarn. And I realized the sock isn't a pain to knit. Why is the Bloodroot being such a pain? The answer is it's not. It was just a little bit tightly knitted in the first rows for me. It's loosening up. It is in a 2x2 rib. It is very handsome. It's a very, very handsome thing. I'm using Be Myself, a sock yarn from her, in this glorious red colorway. And I'm not going to bother telling you the glorious colorway because Be Myself is no longer dying as far as I know. Okay, so that's all the knitting there is to talk about. Let's see what else I'm doing. Well, let's get down to a strategy, shall we? Yes. Well, the strategy is about hanging in. And this came up in therapy. I had a person who was constantly talking about people around her having unexpected deaths in their family. What can she do? And this weekend for me has been about hanging in as well. And I'll get there. We're all okay, guys. Let's end the suspense right here. But I went back to the discussion I'd had with that patient over several weeks. And, we all wonder about this. When we see our friends going through grief, we always say, well, what can I do? What can I do? And there's really 2 answers to that. The first answer is ask them. ask them what they want. They're the expert. And it's really hard for you to guess what they want or need. And it can be very eclectic, and it can be very, very simple. What did I need this weekend? I really didn't need much. I probably could have used someone to go pick up my son at one point and bring him over to where my husband and I were. Maybe someone picking up some groceries for me. Or maybe just a chat to let me debrief, which, by the way, I had people who would do this. I'm simply dredging examples. But, sometimes people would say, I am exhausted. I've been at the name one, hospital, funeral home, whatever, all day long. I just can't face cooking. Give them food. Food is always good. Making food that they can just pop into the oven or the microwave, that's always a good idea. But what can I do for a friend? The first answer is, why don't you ask them? Because they may have very specific things. Pick the kids up from school. Take the kids' library books back to the library because I'm not going to have a chance to do that with the kids. Bring over some groceries, something like that. There's some very interesting and odd things people do not think of when they see a friend having a problem. And so the answer is, you don't have to think of it. Ask the person in need, what can I do for you? So if you have friends who are just hanging on or hanging in with a difficult situation and you want to help them, just ask. Why do we not do that? Because a lot of us are secretly afraid that they might burst into hysterical tears and then cling to us and beg us for support that we can't give, etc., etc. Okay, that is the makings of a really bad video on Netflix. The reality is, most of the time, when people are going through a difficult situation, they have these little tasks, and you could do those. And here's another one. If you ask them and they ask you to do something you can tell them that. And that leads to solution number 2. What do I do for a friend who is hanging in during a tough situation? The bare necessities. What does anybody need when they're hanging in and going through a hard situation? If they have babies, do they need a diaper service? Can you have somebody else do that for them? Do they need you to do laundry or take their clothes to a laundry for them? Do they need you to come over and just clean the kitchen for them or cook them a home-cooked meal? Do they need you to just go over to the grocery store and pick up soap powder, washing stuff for laundry, just basic dry goods, the stuff you would buy for yourself every month? Get it for them. If you're like me and you order your dry goods every month for groceries, put in a spare order for them and have it sent to their house. Just order exactly what you ordered for yourself and have it sent to them as a gift box. There's so many ways you can help people manage when they are trying to hang on. Now, one of the problems here, most of the time we love to surprise our friends with gifts. Oh, what a thoughtful gift. And when a person is hanging in a tough situation, that's not really a good thing. That's the kind of thing we do for birthdays or anniversaries or Mother's Day or something. We surprise them. When someone is hanging in for a difficult situation, yeah, you can surprise them by bringing them the necessities and letting them decide what they want or don't want. Sure. Okay. But just surprising them and not thinking about what they probably need is a problem. You can ask them what they need, and then you can arrange it in a beautiful way. It's still a surprise. Put them in a gift basket. I don't care. But I want you to get the reason you're hanging up on this problem is, number one, you're afraid they might ask you for what you cannot give. It's okay. We're all adults here. You can say no, or you can set boundaries. Number two, you're afraid they're going to cling to you and suck up all your time while you're trying to handle the necessities. Did I mention we have boundaries? And number three, we all want to spring fun surprises We've seen it over and over on the Hallmark Channel or whatever. Yeah. No. If you really want them to be happy and they're really struggling, they want to know their needs are going to be met in a way that takes account of their real needs, not your fantasies. So believe me, the surprise is not as valuable to them as, I'm going to the store today, what can I pick up for you? I'll bring it over tonight. That's what they need. They don't need uncertainty and surprises. They need clarity and hope because they're struggling. So give them hope. Here's what I'm going to bring over for you tonight. Will you be home? Where could I drop these? Etc. So when someone is hanging in and you're saying, what can I do for them? Ask them. But if you can't ask them for some reason, then think of what are the basic necessities and supply them. Whether you cook them a meal, get them their dry groceries, whatever. Oh, shoot. Well, I have to tell you, I rode the e-bike. I have been a little scared of it because I really didn't know how to ride it. It's different than the motorcycles I used to ride as a kid. And I took it out one afternoon because I was just climbing the walls. And I learned it really is an e-bike. So I did not know all the settings. I did not know I had it set up to be a Class 2 bicycle, which I think is supposed to go up to 20 miles an hour. And a Class 2 is assisting the pedaling. So when I went out, I was riding it around our development, which is a lot of steep hills with gravel roads and pits all over the roads. And this is not a trail motorcycle. So the tires aren't quite that wide, but they were wide enough. And what I found is I do have to pedal, but all I have to do is tap the little accelerator tab under my left thumb, and it will automatically read my pedaling speed and augment without exceeding. So when I hit the accelerator, as long as I'm careful and just tap it lightly, if I'm biking at 9 miles an hour, I will get assistance from the engine to do about 9 miles an hour. So this was a blast. I was scared out of my mind. I put on my big old helmet. I do not wear a bike helmet. I wear a motorcycle helmet. Why is that? Because I have fallen off motorcycles at extremely slow speeds. I want the full face helmet. It's just experience talking. So I'm going to come back to the e-bike because there is a picture in the bottom of the show notes under the blather. In the meantime, that was my excuse for, oh shoot, I did get out and bike. So that gives me another chance to show you where to donate used running shoes and also old medals from races you've completed. And you can once again see my list of upcoming races. In the fluffy books, oh, I should tell you though, I am injured. I pulled my back out of whack, so I'm not really able to run, and I'm not sure I can even bike right now. And it'll get better. You'll probably hear about that later if it doesn't. But for now, I'm just carefully doing yoga and putting heat on it and taking aspirin, and we're doing pretty well. Now on to the fluffy books. Well, I finished a lot. I finished the Mud Puddle Manual of Natural Magic. Very original for what it is. I really quite enjoyed it. It was just fun and nifty. I don't know how to say it. It's not heavy reading. There's no great message outside of harmony. And I think I said before, there's this sense that this author felt that the racism that was created as an issue in the Harry Potter series between magical and non-magical people. This author is not quoting Harry Potter. This is not a Harry Potter series. It's not school children, etc. None of that. But that theme is being examined here. And it is examined in the most interesting way. And the conclusions drawn at the end are kind of wonderful. And what I really like is she's not slapping you in the face with this. But if you're paying attention, you're going to see what this author thinks of the racist ideas and tendencies in the groups she creates for this book. Meanwhile, I finished Mary Bennett and The Haunting of Longbourn. Boy, do I love that series. I have said it before. I will say it again. I hope there's going to be more of this. It certainly looks like there is from the ending of the book. I listened to The Messenger Cat Cafe. I really enjoyed this. This book could have been much more sad than it was. And the reason it's not is it's positioned in the afterlife with a cat. And so everywhere this book could get really, really sad, it is lightened up by this view of the afterlife that is very positive and gentle and sweet. So I deeply enjoyed The Messenger Cat Cafe. I also finished C.S. Harris, When the Wolves Are Silent. This is the latest in her series about Sebastian Sincere. That's his name. It's brilliant. I think he's Viscount Devlin. She's very good with names, C.S. Harris is. And these books, there's a little bit of violence and gore. They're historical mysteries. I love the relationship at the center of them between Sebastian and the amazing wife, Hero. I love the whole thing about these books. So this is a preferred taste. If you don't like this type of book, I understand. I am currently listening to the sequel to Mud Puddle, which is called The Witch's Catalog, A Wanderlust Essentials. Again, I thought, well, she's going to beat that thing into the ground that she did so well in Mud Puddle Manual. No, she doesn't. She goes in an interesting direction. Very original, very fun. I'm listening to it at night and deeply enjoying it. I am also reading How to Lose a Goblin in 10 Days. I have to tell you, I thought the description and the cover were absolute 100% sickeningly sweet smarm. I'm actually quite enjoying the book. Hey, why are you even reading it, Gemma? Not sure. Not sure. This is almost everything I hate in a cozy book, and it's working. It's funny, it's clever, and it shows both sides. It's an unconventional romance. I think the only problem I'm having is our two main characters are falling for each other a little unbelievably fast, but it's only got 10 days. So there we go. Something I really like is a small film called Silly Little Hat. I cannot recommend this enough. You really have to see it. It's about 2 minutes and a few seconds, and it's just very funny. The premise is old people are not being seen or attended to unless they do something either extreme or demented or stupid or all of those things. But I highly recommend it. It's beautifully acted. It's just brilliantly scripted and managed. The scene in the store where she gets the Burberry coat and the one clerk in the store is trying to hide behind a rack of clothes, that 2 seconds is worth the price of admission. It's so funny. The performances in this are so good and so straight-faced. You really must go look at Silly Little Hat. The link is in the show notes. It was originally, I believe, a TikTok. I saw it, I believe, on Reddit or Instagram. So, Silly Little Hat. Also, there is still the bundle of ice resistance patterns I've collected. There's a link to that. There are links to helping the people impacted by ice. And there's a multi-link, Crafters Helping Minnesota, that goes to a site that has a whole page of links for you to get active to help. Meanwhile, the Project Back episodes on Proton, still carrying episodes 201 to 250 of this new series. Green Fingers, nothing much. It's warm, it's cold, it's warm, it's cold, it's warm. Yeah. So I'm just weeding. Really what I'm doing a bit of is cleanup around our front patio, just trying to get the dead leaves out from under Audrey 4, the man-eating wisteria. And I put in peppermint near the Paiute stuff. That new stuff is going great. The Paiute stuff is suddenly bouncing back, but we just are not getting warm enough. We are getting a lot of rain, which is nice. Put a lid on it. Nothing much there except I have been tea tasting. I have a huge recommendation for you. This is Stargazer Caramel Mate Chai. Boy, is this stuff good. Oh, this is good. It's good with cream, without cream. Let's see what's in it. Brazilian mate tea. I have no idea what that means, if that's a black tea or a caffeinated tea, but there it is. Rooibos tea, cardamom, ginger, orange peel, cloves, cinnamon, aniseed, natural flavor. So there's a real chai. I mean, you can hear just the spiced ingredients, and it's layered in on top of this mate tea and the rooibos. Boy, is this good stuff. I have been drinking this slowly because I just don't want it ever to go away, and I have been loving it. This is from Plum Deluxe. The smell is great. The taste is great. I'm hoping it's decaf. I don't think it's been keeping me awake at night. I love chai, and this is a company that is Plum Deluxe that does a lot of chai varieties. This is definitely top of the list. This is a great one. This is Stargazer Caramel Mate Chai. Really wonderful. And now, the moment you've all been waiting for, the blather, where I start telling you what actually happened and not being cryptic anymore. First, as I mentioned in episode 282, the puppies got cleaned up on Tuesday, and that was good. Now this is, by the way, Wednesday evening, April 29th, 2026 at 8:10 p.m. So that's about 8 days ago now. And then, what you've all been waiting for, on Thursday, I went to the dentist because I had just a little discomfort. She filed down one tooth, no hurt, no painkiller, nothing needed. She didn't numb me, nothing, just stuck a drill in my mouth for about maybe 10 seconds, and everything was fixed. So, all those fantasies you have about horrible things the dentist is going to do when you have a sensitive tooth, no, it was great. So I'm thinking this is really good. I went home Thursday. I took the afternoon off because I was really wound up tight as a spring because of seeing the dentist. Friday morning I get up and I'm thinking, normal Friday, this will be great. I'm sitting, because I got up early, I'm sitting in pajamas drinking my coffee. I usually get up and shower right away. My son walks in, says, "Dad came in from outside. This looks really bad. You should come." He was perfectly calm. I give him a lot of credit for this. I said, "Did somebody die?" Like, I couldn't parse what he was even saying because it was like 8 a.m. on a Friday morning. Anyway, I walk out. There's my husband. He apparently did a swan dive down our ravine because he accidentally stabbed himself with a yucca plant. This resulted in him sort of dancing around the plant, trying to get his balance back. Thank goodness he'd already put the weed whacker down, so he didn't hurt himself with that. But every time he would get his balance back, he would sort of fall on the very razor-sharp leaves, I'm not kidding, of this yucca plant. Yucca is kind of a weed around here, but they get really big. 3 feet high big. Okie doke. So finally, he just fell face first, whacked his head. So when I saw him, his face, fortunately, he didn't actually cut himself. He more abraded the skin. And he was calm and his eyes looked good. He didn't have giant pupils or little tiny pupils or anything like that. And he was making perfect sense. I said, "Did you knock yourself out?" He said no. He was absolutely sure he had not lost consciousness. And he got up and brought himself back into the house after lying for a minute and getting his wits back, he says. Okay, so I said, "Okay, I'm going to throw on clothes." I said, "Let's wash your face." No. He wanted to go right away. I thought, that's true. He whacked his head. Let's go. So I threw on my clothes. We went down to Palmdale Regional Hospital, which none of us had really been to before. They did a really great job. They stayed very calm. The fact that he was so organized, his eyes looked good. He didn't act concussed. They said he had what they called a mini concussion, whatever. They didn't say that till much later. But everybody was calm, and they bandaged him up, and they put him in the ICU. They brought in a neurologist, did a CAT scan. He had a little bit of bleeding in the brain, a very little bit, subdural hematoma. They said 2 millimeters of blood. He says, that's like a drop. Yeah, well, it is in your brain, though. So they kept him overnight in the ICU. He was very coherent, considering they were giving him morphine, because what did hurt was his neck. He's had problems with the vertebra in his neck just as a function of aging. They've gotten very stiff, and they've deteriorated somewhat. So that's what hurt him. everything else was good. So he was kind of stone pony for a lot of Friday, but he was very nice about it. And he was very coherent. So that meant the beloved son and I were with him all afternoon in the hospital. And that evening we went off to BJ's, my son and I. We couldn't bring him food or anything because he was still in the ICU. But you can see my lovely steak and wedge of lettuce there. And my son, of course, got the weirdest looking pitsuki, which is a baked cookie with ice cream on it. He says that blue ice cream was vanilla. They did pour liquid chocolate, which hardened immediately. I took a taste of it. I have to tell you, if you want to know what that thing tastes like, just get your sugar bowl out and take 2 big whopping teaspoons of sugar. And that's pretty much what it tasted like to me, with a hint of chocolate. He loved it. He couldn't eat all of it, let's be honest. So the next day, Saturday, while I knitted faithfully by his side, my son and I were in the hospital with my husband. And he did get moved mid-afternoon. Now, there were a few other things. I said we all gave blood. Well, my husband obviously bled. My son had an appointment to give platelets, so I delivered him there. And then I hung out with my husband, who was unconscious. He was snoring because he'd had a bad night's sleep. He was still in the ICU. I went and picked up my son, and we went back to the hospital after having an early dinner where we ate at a place called Big Tuna. And you can see I had a fantastic sushi bento box with sashimi, with more food than I could possibly eat. And there's my son eating his teriyaki chicken combo. And you can see his drama bandages, because they do really bright red drama bandages at the Red Cross. So there is my son showing that off. And we're very, very proud of him. You can give platelets every 2 weeks. Actually, in America, you can give them every week. In Britain, according to the NHS, you give them every 2 weeks. Comes to the same thing. You can only do it 26 times a year. Why Americans let you do it every week for only 26 times, I don't get. I think the British have figured that one out better, saying every 2 weeks. But there he is with his drama bandages. And there's our dinner. And meanwhile, we got back to the hospital, and they'd moved my husband to a normal room. So Sunday we spent trying to escape from the med-surg floor because they told us, oh yes, we released them at 11 a.m. I believe we got home about 4:30 in the afternoon. Considering this hospital is 20 minutes from the house, draw your own conclusions. We had really, really excellent nursing care. The food was a nightmare. It was the most unhealthy hospital food. It was all preservatives and packaged food. If I'd been there, I would have starved. I mean, seriously, they were giving him prepackaged cookies, and it was, even the cooked food was just boiled to death. Blah. But I got to say, the nursing care was superb. The doctors were a little bit unplugged from the wall. We finally got a good hospitaler. It is the doctor who runs the hospital floor, and her faithful sidekick, the resident. And they were great. The first resident we met, dipstick, didn't read the chart. And you can imagine yours truly clenching my teeth not to say, go out there and read the chart. But I didn't. I'm not the patient, but I was furious. At any rate, that was the big drama there. So finally we got home. But meanwhile, that morning I donated blood. I can only do it once every 2 months. I can only donate whole blood. So I did that. And that's why there's a picture of me and the Red Cross volunteer at the top of this. So in one way or another, we all donated blood this week. And we all came home. And on Monday, I foolishly thought I was going to see patients. And I realized maybe an hour before I started, I couldn't. I was just not coherent. I was so exhausted. So I canceled all the patients. And in between things, all weekend, I was upgrading my e-bike. And that is, I bought electric XP4 750, I think it's called. It's a folding bike. It's their most popular model. It weighs about 80 pounds. And it always comes with bonuses. Ours came with a folding bike lock, which I think is worth its weight in gold, and a back rack, a front basket, a light, and a bell, and a phone holder. The phone holder I don't like. It kind of gets in the way. But I spent the weekend and Monday just doing one little task at a time to upgrade the bike till I got all the stuff on it, and I love it. It's a really, really nice set of accessories. Whenever you buy this bike, they say, look, we're going to give you all these free things. Now, of course, you're paying for all of it. But it's nice because it is a quasi-cargo bike. It can hold a lot of weight. You can carry your goodies and your groceries on it. I'm very, very happy with it. So there is the actual picture of the upgraded electric with all its baskets and its goodies on it, sitting in the living room, which has become our e-bike, e-scooter garage. Don't ask me why. It just has. I think because my husband was good-natured, we put down cheap carpet there. Those are cheap rugs it's sitting on. And basically we did it in good light, which we don't have in the garage. So everything's living in my living room right now. Minerva. Oh, let me tell you too, all the usual links, the LGBTQIA plus lifelines, the community resources of things to augment your knitting and crocheting and spinning and weaving. The links to the various services to help you manage our little problem with ice. Again, my calendar, and Minerva now gets the last word. She is sitting in that picture on top of our bedside table, which is much higher than our bed, which is saying something because you take 2 steps to get up onto my bed. She is sitting on the bedside table and she's blepping in rage with her tongue. And what you're missing there is she is knocking everything off the bedside table in protest because I have changed the world by hiding her dad. So Minerva's last word is, you bring him back or I will punish you. I am pleased to say that our little community is now reunited. Minerva is much, much better and happier because after all, here it comes, we are a community. And when we work for the good of the community, we are also working for the good of the individual. Having said that, everybody stay safe, take care of each other, and I will talk to you soon. Bye-bye. So we have come to the end of another episode of Cognitive. Please do not use this podcast to diagnose yourself. If you think you are having a mental health problem, please contact a licensed mental health professional. Show notes for these episodes can be found at cognitivepodcast, all one word, .blogspot.com. Episodes can be found at iTunes under the name Cognitive Podcast, but also can be found posted next to the show notes on the Blogspot page. Thank you so much for listening. Everybody, stay safe, take care of each other, and I'll talk to you soon. Bye-bye.